Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me as always is my co host and the editor, Rex.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode.
Thanks for stealing my intro.
You're welcome.
And we're back for the final spooky episode of this month's Halloween season. So we're doing something a little different today. Normally we just do audio recordings and we don't see each other. But I spent a lot of money because I was recently on Kaiju Kim, Chill with Kaiju Kim, the YouTube channel. I was on there and I spent like $300 on a webcam and a light ring and a tripod and new headphones. So I thought it'd be best to use it. So here I am using my setup, and Rex is still doing what he's always doing. But now he sees me, so now he knows if I do a reaction or something.
Yes. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. But before we get into the mysterious movie that nobody knows what we're covering, we always do a little rut-row-raggy.
I thought you were going to say something else there, but...
Nope. I know exactly what you thought I was going to say. Nope. Not going to say it.
Wanted to.
No, I didn't.
You wanted to.
Nope. Not one bit.
Sure.
So, before we get into the mysterious episode that we're going to talk about what movie we're talking about, I'm going to act like that sentence made sense. We always do a little conversation at the beginning on how we're doing, what's new, what's popping, what's hip, yo. So going in, Rex, have you seen any new Tokusatsu lately? Anything cool, exciting, or interesting happen?
I haven't watched too much recently. Tokusatsu, I rewatched Godzilla Final Wars recently. That was very fun.
It's always fun watching Final Wars.
Bro, that movie goes so hard, honestly. Especially with the dub. The dub just makes it 1,000 times better.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that dub. I love specifically the voice actor for Akira Takarada.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. He's great.
I think the guy who does Kazuki Kitamura, like the controller Exilian, I think that guy is perfect for the role too.
Dude, he had so much fun with that.
I mean, you can kind of tell everyone is in some regard. But those two, stealing the goddamn show, every scene. And then you've got Don Fry, of course, as well.
Ozaki, nice work.
Nice work.
It's not what you think yet. That's how that scene goes.
The music makes it go so hard.
You need to watch Alive. I need to watch
more Kitamura stuff, honestly. I loved Versus as well.
Watch, since you've seen Versus, now watch Alive. And with those two, you'll have the perfect formula for what ends up being Final Wars. Getting a little bit back on track here. Have you seen anything else lately?
Well, there's only really one other Toku movie I've watched, but if we want to talk practical effects type movies, I did see Terrifier 2 and Smile as well.
That's a Blumhouse film, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so. I believe. I've heard a lot of stuff about that one.
It's all right. It actually did remind me a fair lot of our episode's film today.
Really? Interesting.
That's both a positive and a negative for it, where I like the general storyline, but it's a bit too derivative for me to love it, you know? Because what else did it feel like? It felt like our title film, and there was a couple other films that it reminded me of.
Interesting. And I've heard nothing but great stuff about Terrifier 2.
Bro, that is actually the horror film of the year. honest to God, I loved it.
Hmm.
If it were 10 minutes shorter, it would be like basically perfect in my mind.
Interesting. See, I'm not a huge horror guy, even though I would like to be. I've thought about looking into either Terrifier 2 or Terrifier just
Mm.
to see what all the
I mean,
talk
the
is
buzz
about.
is mainly because of the extreme violence in both films. Like the first Terrifier, it's okay, but it's mostly just an effects showcase and a showcase for its villain, Art the Clown.
Mhm.
Terrifier 2 actually has a story to it. It's not like an overly well written story. It's like it just works. Honestly, that's the best way I can put it. It just works.
I see, I see. Um, Now I'm pretty sure you have no, you talked about Shin Ultraman last time. I remember
Yes,
now.
I
Yeah,
did.
you did. Yeah. So that's all you've seen besides the unknown movie that we're covering?
Mm. Did I mention that I saw Shin Ultraman twice?
You didn't say twice, but you have talked about it.
Because I have watched Shin Ultraman twice. It is very good. I really enjoyed it.
Interesting.
Not quite as much as Terrified 2, but like pretty close.
I see. See, I know a few people now who have seen it,
Mm.
and I still have yet to see it, but I'm
Oh,
hoping.
I just remembered. That reminds me. Speaking of Shin Ultraman, Hidetoshi Nishijima, who plays Shin Ultraman's equivalent of Captain Moromatsu from the original, stars in a show that recently just aired on Prime Video called Kamen Rider Black Sun.
I've thought about watching Kamen Rider Black Sun.
I'm about I've seen about the first 4 episodes. It is quite good.
It reminds me of like 1990s Keita Anamiya with a lot of its cinematography, and it looks
And it's
90s.
design work too for like the
Yes,
writers.
yes.
You haven't even seen I won't say. I won't say
Yeah,
because
keep it a surprise. Keep it a surprise. I watched like a minute of it, and I've seen like the henshin. And I was like, "Whoa, this actually looks a lot better than anything Toei's put out
did you
writer-wise."
see the henshin from the first episode with the spider monster, or did you see the proper henshin?
The one that, like, he, like, holds his hand out and, like, it goes over his head, and then, like, he
Okay,
th
so the more traditional henshin with the actual
Yes.
pose. I actually have not seen that yet
Okay.
because I'm not up to that episode. I think that's the next
Yeah,
one I watch.
I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, "I'll check it out. Let's see if it
Mhm.
looks as awful as, Saber and Revis," and, I was like, "Whoa."
Yeah, no, Black Sun CG has actually looked pretty decent, and the best part is there's not a lot of it. Like, so Black Sun compared to like your average Rider series is probably the goriest Rider that I've seen. Um, the only other Rider anything to get as gory as it was Kamen Rider Amazons, but like Amazon's gore was 80% CGI, and it was pretty bad looking CG gore too.
Interesting.
But this is mostly practical gore, and it looks very good.
See, that makes me excited because that reminds me of, like, Keita Anamiya, like, he had some
Mm.
pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
I've been told it's the goriest since, Kamen Rider Shin Prologue.
probably yeah. I mean, Shin Prologue wasn't that gory. There's a
Minus
couple moments.
The Henshin moment.
Okay, yeah, that's that moment. Yeah, like there's only really one. No, there's okay. There's a couple moments of like blood splatters, but there's only like maybe one gory kill, and it's like I feel like it was mostly either done in silhouette or with shadows, one or the other.
Makes sense, makes sense. But so you've liked that so far?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely have. It's very in your face about its message, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, you know?
Yeah, I've heard they go really hard in the politics.
They absolutely do, and I heard it from what I've watched, and from what I've heard, it gets even harder into it.
Interesting. So I've thought about, because Discotech just announced they're releasing Kamen Rider Black to
Yeah.
Blu-ray. I've thought about when that comes out to jump around, which shocking, right? Because with Ultraman, I've been going season by season. I'm stuck on Ultraman 80. Um, I've thought about skipping basically all the Showa up to Black, watch Black, and then watch Black Sun just to watch them.
Mm.
Yeah, Black Sun interests me so much.
Black Sun is quite good so far. The action, like, there's not a lot of action in episodes. Usually, there's only like one or two action scenes per episode, but they go hard.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually surprised when I went on Prime Video, like when I was waiting for it to come out on Australian Prime Video, and I saw the page and it was like R18. I'm like, wow, not even Amazon's was R18.
Yeah, I was surprised by that rating because it's rated 18 in America as well. Though that actually leads into something I wanted to mention about this. I hate how they've promoted it. Like it just kind of came out, and that's
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much of an issue with it. It is what it is, you know.
but like I can't even look it up on my Prime. I have to go by link to find it.
I mean, I can. I don't know what's up with it in the US. I know it was kind of weird at first, but I was under the impression that like it would be fixed by now.
So
But
I
it
just
did take like it didn't come out in the US until like a day or two later, I think.
So I just went on my Prime Video because I'm an Amazon Prime subscriber. When I look up Kamen Rider, this is what I get. Amazon Rider Season 1, Striga, Kamen Rider 01, Amazon Rider Season 2, Kamen Rider 555, Kamen Rider 01 Real X Time, Kamen Rider Ryuki, Kamen Rider Kuga Season 1, Kamen Rider Agito, Outerman, Kamen Rider Kuga, Stormhawks, uh, Gamori of Zero, Super Sentai Ranger, Knight Rider, and then it just dives into just random stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but for me, I just search up Kamen Rider and Black Sun's the only thing that actually comes up. Like I have to search up I have to search up Amazon Riders to get Kamen Rider Amazons.
And when I look up Kamen Rider Black Moon, it says results Prime top TV and
Black
movies The
Sun.
Boys. Or yeah, Black Sun. God, maybe that's why. Black Sun. It's got The Boys.
I mean,
It's The
the
Boys.
boys does go pretty hard, so
But like that's all it'll give me. It won't give me Kamen Rider Black Suns. I have to go through a link, and it kind of sucks.
that's a shame. But
It
yes,
is.
do watch it. The show is really good so far. It's got a good director behind it too. I don't think you've seen any of his work. I can't remember how to pronounce his name because I always get him confused with another director. Kazuya Shiraishi. That's it. He did a movie called Blood of the Wolves, starring Koji Yakusho, and it's a very good detective drama.
Interesting. Has he worked on anything else I might know?
I don't think so. I think Black Sun is his first Toku.
Gotcha.
I know Blood of the Wolves at least has like a Sentai actor in it or something, but that's about it. And
Gotcha.
then Koji Yakusho's in like Kiyoshi Kurosawa films, like Pulse.
Pulse, yeah. I've thought about buying I'm kind of getting off the Kamen Rider thing. I've thought about buying Cure, the Kiyoshi Kurosawa Cure.
Good movie.
That got released on 4K and Blu-ray by Criterion.
Oh, really?
And I thought, why not pick it up? Why not pick it up?
It's very good. Like it's not something I would actively rewatch because it's not something I necessarily love. but it is a very good film. Like, I won't deny that it is very good.
Yeah. And because I'm trying to watch more Japanese horror. Recently I got the Death Note films, the first two Shutsuke Kaneko ones. Um, and then of course I've bought and watched a lot of other things. In fact, the only toku segueing kind of into what I've watched, I've only watched one toku movie, and that's actually related to our topic for today. Uh,
Wonder what that could be.
so I hear it's a cycle.
Oh
It just
no, this gag again.
it just keeps happening. I know it's like the gag. It just keeps happening.
It's like a virus, you could say.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's something about it that just sends shivers down my spine. You know, something deep, very cold.
Sounds like you're in a well.
Yeah, kind of like a well. Deep, cold, wet.
I know someone is waiting for the day that we stop making this joke.
Well, they're gonna wait as long as a little girl might wait in a well, because I am not giving this joke up. They're gonna have to go through searching and trying to figure out the clues to figure out how to get me to stop doing this.
I hope you get thrown down a well.
And by the time they're done, they're gonna realize they have to share this joke with others, because it will always come back. So today we're talking about the 1998 Hideo Nagata film Ringa, not Ringu. We are not calling it Ringu.
I mean, you're saying Ringu right now, so...
Well, we're not calling it that because that's improper. That is not what the title of this film is. And to explain that a bit, because there's a lot of people that will call
Says the guy that calls Godzilla Gojira.
I've been trying to fix my ways. I don't know if it's been obvious, but I have actually been trying to stop calling it Gojira. Because I realized it's wrong. Ring and Ringu. So in the Japanese alphabet, you cannot actually spell the word ring.
Yes.
So when you do put the Japanese characters for ring in text, it spells out Ringu, like House, the 1977 House, directed by
Nobuhiko
Nobuhiko Obayashi. Yeah. That film in Japanese would be House. But that's not the title of the film. In the trailers, House. It's called House.
It almost sounds like you're doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression.
I'm not trying.
It sounds like it, bro.
Well, in the trailer, it's House. It's very cool. It's very cool. Which, speaking of which, I saw House in theaters. Did I say that last time?
You may have. I don't actually remember.
I saw House in theaters. That was really fun.
Congratulations. I missed out on seeing it in theaters a second time.
Oh, that's nice. Anyways,
these things happen.
Yeah, these things happen. Back to the Ringu thing. So the film is titled Ring. That is what the film's title is, but the Japanese characters spell out Ringu. So it's titled
because
Ring.
It's a loan word, yeah.
Right. And I believe it was DreamWorks who acquired the rights for distribution in the US, titled it Ringu. This was partly to just prevent it from being misinterpreted as the DreamWorks
American film
The Ring from 2002. but nowhere has the film actually been titled Ringu outside of that foreign distribution release.
I mean, some streaming releases also call it Ringu too.
Right. And part of
But
that's
only the
also
first one. Only the first one.
right,
Like,
yeah,
they'll
because
get
after
Ring
that,
2 and Ring 0 correct.
yeah. And when Arrow released it, they were supposed to title it Ring. There's actually a whole bonus feature that talks about how it's Ring and not Ringu. And David Hallett has a whole 2-minute rant about calling it Ring and not Ringu. But in the box set, it's titled Ringu. The Ringu Collection, Ringu 2, Ringu 0. And I don't know what happened and why it was released this way. But the film is titled Ring. And I'm going to continue calling it Ring because that is the film's title, not Ringu. That's like calling Ultraman Ultraman, or right?
Urutoraman.
Ultraman.
Urutoraman.
What, Rex?
Urutoraman.
Yeah. And I'm not going to try and do that because I've already screwed it up twice.
Yes.
I'm not gonna do that with Ring. So we're talking about Ring, the film directed by Hideo Nagata. Now, Rex, do you want to be more critical or do you want to be more historical here at the beginning? I'll kind of let you decide what we want to do here, because this film has a lot.
Probably just historical and see where we go, I suppose.
Okay. So this film, it's funny. Well, it's not funny. We did this on purpose. So this month has been J-horror. We've been doing more interesting picks for our films. And
Yes.
at the beginning of the month, we did Ju-on the Grudge. And so when we did Ju-on the Grudge, we were covering the second most popular founding father of J-horror. Then we went back and we did Matango last week, and then we did The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch the week prior. 2 60s B-movie, essentially, like B-rate films that Daiei and Toho, some of Japan's largest companies, put out as kind of like those whatever films, filler for release dates. And now we're back to the film that started the idea of J-horror, even though J-horror, as we've proven this month, has existed for decades. Ring is kind
it
of
sparked a sort of new age J-horror.
Yes. And some people, David Callett went in on his book J-horror, The Definitive Guide to the Ring, The Grudge, and Beyond. In his book, he mentions that he contemplated titling his book Dead Wet Girls or something else. But, I mean, obviously, you can't really name a book Dead Wet Girls.
I mean, you can, but it may get published in the same category as a Chuck Tingle novel.
Yeah. So
I hope someone in the audience knows what that is.
If they do, good. If they
Google
don't,
it.
Don't Google it. Don't Google it.
Do it. It's worth it. It's worth it. Google it. Buy his books if you want.
No. But a lot of there's been a lot of debate on whether titling it J-horror is proper or not. There's even a suggestion called Neo Kaidan. Neo meaning new, and Kaidan being Kaidan. Kaidan,
it'd be
Kaidan, meaning strange stories. I'm pretty sure. I think that's the translation for that word.
I had a similar thing. It was, I think it was like either New Age Japanese horror or something like along that lines as like another suggestion.
Because like essentially you have three waves of Japanese horror to my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You have your classic like Ghost of Yotsuya, um Kuroneko, Kwaidan,
Right on.
um just your classic folklore Japanese horror. And then in the 70s, you start getting more experimental, more crazy, more
More
extreme.
house.
House, guinea pigs in the late 80s, just more extreme in any direction, more crazy, more
Mm-hmm. Sweet Home as
pornographic,
well.
Sweet Home, more gore, just more extreme. Um,
And then we sort of take a bit of a step back on the extremities
and
with Ring.
And with Ring, and this is something I noticed, Ring is kind of like a combination of a lot of different horror tropes. You know, the film The Snake on the Silver-Haired Witch, we covered it, was very gothic horror. It felt like a Western horror movie made in Japan. Um, and Ring kind of does the same thing, but it also introduces Japanese folklore a bit with the curse, how the curse happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, from
with
what I understand, the curse was kind of already a rumor that circulated in Japan a little bit prior to Ring, apparently.
there, I don't know if it was exactly the story of Ring, but I know, I mean, uh, there would be a lot of occurrences where like these little folklore tales, these urban legends would spread. And after Ring came out, there was a bit of an urban legend going around about a ghost tape, but it never amounted to much. But in Ring, we start off the film, and it reminds me a lot of like Scream. Scream was kind of like the new wave of your American horror films.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, being a little more self-aware. But
Yeah.
what Ring does is Ring kind of flips that and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't satirize the genre, but goes in a really interesting direction that I when I first watched it, I was not expecting.
Hmm. You want to go into what you were expecting with that scene, or?
Well, like when the scene sets up, you're expecting okay, it's gonna be like Scream, like it's gonna set up this whole uh story and like it's gonna show the girls being killed. It's gonna be like, do you like scary movies? What's your favorite scary movie? Uh, kind of like your typical like shocker opening.
Mm-hmm.
But what Ring does is it's very tame. Throughout Ring, there's not a lot that happens. It's a very tame film.
Oh,
It's left
definitely.
it's left for the mystery because the film is more of a mystery than a horror film, which I love that.
I mean, the novel too is even more mystery, even science fiction more than horror and supernatural
Right.
horror.
And that's something I found really interesting is how the Ring book series is more science fiction than it is horror, yet its film counterparts have all been straight up horror films.
Yeah. Um, that's interesting. I wouldn't really say Ring's opening is as like out of the ordinary as you'd say, because like bear in mind a few years before you had a movie like Candyman come out, which has a very similar opening scene where it's establishing the rules of like Candyman sort of not quite a curse, kind of. It's kind of similar. Um, and he appears, kills. I think it was two girls who were having a sleepover, sort of similar to the setup in Ring. And I'm pretty sure the kills were off screen. I'm pretty sure those kills were off screen. But what I mean is just very, very similar setups.
Sure. And that's one instance where I found it interesting that there was that Western influence.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like House that feels very, very like Japanese. It was trying to kind of do what your mid to late 60s Japanese horror films were doing, but it also, instead of just going full on like gothic horror, or in this case like slasher film,
Mm-hmm.
it goes down a direction of something undoubtedly Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's a very I don't know how else to put it other than it's just a very Japanese movie.
Mm-hmm. From our setup, you have your opening, and then you question why is it relevant, and then the story slowly explains like, okay, so this is the beginning of the mystery, and then we
Yeah,
are introduced to one of our two main characters,
whom is related to the victims of one of the victims of our opening scene.
correct, and then from there the narrative continues to unwrap, and it
Mm-hmm.
is a mystery that goes deeper than the well that Sadako is in. Like, it essentially, it becomes this film where they have this video, and all they can do is take the video and try to backtrace everything
Mm-hmm.
in the video. It's kind of like what people do with Marvel trailers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they sit there, they look frame by frame to try and figure out what's going on.
I mean, I wouldn't quite. I mean, yeah, you can make that comparison, but I would more compare it to if we're looking at it in a modern context. I would honestly compare it more to like YouTube channels that sort of look into like mostly unexplained mysteries or sort of horror type stories, like channels like Rainbot, Nexpo, all those types of channels. Um,
I'm not familiar with them. What exactly do they do?
so basically, you'll get like there'll be a horror sort of story. Some are real life stories, others are fictional, like stories from Twitter and places like that. And they'll sort of
Mhm.
just explore the mysteries of that, um, like build a mystery, explain pieces here and there, and there'll still be bits left out.
Mhm.
It's honestly there's honestly some really interesting videos. There's one from Rainbot about like a Japanese family, and there's a sign that's like calling for help. Like, this is not the real. It's like, don't trust what X person is saying about a person who disappeared. And like, it's a really interesting video.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, I've never heard of them before. I'll have to check them out.
Mm. And I mean, on that note, Ring, I think, is very influential in the modern era because of what it. I would argue it basically started analog horror.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it started it, but it definitely was one
It's
of
a
the.
big influence on that,
Yeah,
undeniably.
I mean, after that, you would see like Pulse, which goes full into the technological horror thing. Like that film
Mhm.
is like all about that. You've got like the One Missed Call
I
series.
mean, I'm more talking about like with the tape, with like the series of sort of vague surreal visuals,
Mm-hmm.
where analog horror, like on YouTube at least, is very you'll have sets of videos, and you sometimes they'll be normal, but there'll be something a little bit off. But then other analog horror videos are very similar to the curse tape from Ring, where it's a
Right.
bunch of vague, sort of cryptic, creepy videos.
So when I was reading Khaled's book, they talked about the Sadako video, and Nagata specifically was try to create something that wasn't just your typical there's a term, spirit. It's a type of video that is like found in folklore. It's called spirit photography. He took inspiration from it, but he also didn't want to like go full in. He wanted something that wouldn't necessarily be unsettling if you understood the context, but because of how it's established and everything about it, it comes across as slightly disturbing, and
Mm-hmm.
you question what's going on. Like one of them, and I love how the whole video is kind of setting up uh what Sadako is.
Mm-hmm.
Um it's the video of it's like the coming of Sadako. It's like your warning, Sadako is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Yeah.
because some of the footages of people crawling, but it's reversed. So it looks really weird, but that's how Sadako crawls. And it's really unnerving, and part of it also comes from the amazing sound design that this film has.
Oh yeah.
The score and the sound design throughout this film is what creates most of the scary moments.
Credit where credit is due must go to the pretty well acclaimed Kenji Kawai, whom is probably best known for Ghost in the Shell.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. So he was the sound designer for it, or was he the
Composer, I believe.
Gotcha.
He's
Yeah,
also
no.
worked on Ip Man, and he might have worked on the Karaboros. I'm butchering the pronunciation. Red Spectacles, and those movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
Stray Dog was the other one.
The is it it's like the Odashi trilogy or something?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
um,
I know what
that's
you
from the same director as Ghost in the Shell.
That's
Mamoru Oshii,
right.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes, because he also went on to do Avalon and Assault Girls and
Mm.
Garmore's The Last Druid. Yeah.
Oh, and he also worked on Ultraman Zero, Revenge of Belial. Or Belial.
Really?
Yeah, he did the score for that as well.
Interesting.
I
Um
almost completely forgot about that.
yeah, anytime um like during the video specifically, like the muffled sound of whatever that is horrifying, and that
Mhm.
adds to that. Like, not only is it the imagery and the color, but it's the sound, because it all feels like this should not have been found. Like
Yeah,
whatever this is was not meant to be found.
I mean it's in the corner. The tape itself is in the corner of a bookshelf. Yeah, of a shelf of tapes, and it's completely unmarked.
Right. And what I love about the beginning, specifically about the tape, is you never, like, you have an idea where the tape came from, but you don't know for certain, like, how it appeared. Like, it doesn't explain that.
Hmm.
Um,
It's absolutely an anomaly.
mhm. And even in the movie, and I appreciated the fact they did this, your reporter who knows how cameras work is like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
The camera should be seen in the shot
the
through the
mirror
mirror,
shot.
but it's not. And then it adds a whole nother layer of like, okay, so this isn't like a snuff film. This isn't like an Evil Dead trap. That film opens with like this found tape with a dude brutally murdering somebody. this unknown like
Anomaly.
anomaly that just it came out of nowhere, much like Ring did. Ring was not a big film. And then its international release mostly initially came from sharing the film copy to copy to copy of VHS tapes
I was about to say,
like the
like
movie.
that.
And
Hmm.
that alone, like, can you imagine already a designed to look horrible video on a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy? It's gonna look horrible.
Hmm.
Um, when it got to some of the producers at DreamWorks that would end up picking up the rights to distribute the film and create the American adaptation, The Ring, Gore Verbinski, the director of The Ring, who would later go on and do the first three Pirates of the Caribbean films, he mentioned that his copy of Ring was horrible. Like, it was horrible, but it added to that mystery, that anomaly, because this film out of Japan just took over the world by storm, and nobody was expecting it to be what it was.
Hmm.
However, the obviously Katakawa did because they had a film sequel shot at the same
Around the
time.
same time with a few returning cast and I think crew members.
Yes, only a few though,
Yeah,
which would end up, I think, damaging Spiral, but that's for another episode.
I'm still yet to see it, so
Fair. You don't need to.
I'm going to. I'll watch all these movies, even those damn Chinese bootleg ones.
Fair. Or the Korean film, The Ring Virus. I
Yeah,
need to see
someday.
that.
I hear it's boring, so maybe a while away.
We'll see. Um, but yeah, no, the footage is remarkable, and every time that there's a reveal, the score is very sudden, and it helps create this sense of like the tension's rising because throughout the whole film, I mean, it's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah,
It's a
I mean,
week.
I think what helps too to make those moments stand out is how just calm yet atmospheric and unsettling the score is normally, even on
Right.
establishing new locations like the island.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think on to add on to the score is Nagata's direction. Like the film is not it's not extreme. There's not a lot of extreme shots. But the way Nagata uses the crane camera, and it's a very
Mm-hmm.
still or slow moving film. There's not a lot of motion, there's not a lot of anxiety. Even when your climax happens with Sadako, the film ends in a fade out on a freeze frame. So even when the most anxious part of the film occurs, Nagata has not changed the pace. It's a very slow moving film, but because of the tension, you don't sit there and you're like, "Is it almost over yet?" Because it's so well paced that you're not asking questions, which is something that Ju-on, The Grudge, I felt like didn't do. I thought Ring left enough to question, but also enough to keep the viewer satisfied. It was a great mystery. The film is more of it's a mystery film.
Oh, absolutely.
What was some aspects you liked about it, Rex?
Um, well, the score and just the general There's also, adding on to the score just a minute, there's also the use of diegetic sounds, such as like the water, as well, that I thought helped really build that tension and atmosphere, even when, nothing actually scary is going on really in these sequences.
Right. And
Um,
and even like the static in the video, I think the
mhm.
static also was another
Oh,
good
yeah. I mean, the
addition.
video is just very well done. Like, the whole movie, like, the other point I was going to bring up is the look of the film. The fact that it is shot on 35 millimeter does wonders for the film. It's got this rough, sort of imperfect look to the
Mhm.
entire thing that makes it a lot more interesting to look at than if it was just glossy HD digital.
Right. And to me, one of the things that, mm, you know, the film, because it doesn't dive into the sci-fi of the novels, and it doesn't stray too far in the horror, one of the scary parts is it feels like it could be in the real world.
Yeah.
And you brought up a great point because of it being shot on 35 millimeter. It feels dirty and grungy like the real world,
Mm.
imperfect.
I mean, adding to that as well, I think, is the actual look of Sadako in the film, where I think this is the best out of the films I've seen in this franchise. Ring Zero, The Ring from Gore Verbinski, and then Sadako vs. Kayako. I think this is the best Sadako has looked in any of those films.
I
Uh,
agree. And there's something that's really unsettling when Sadako pops out of the screen for the first time. I have
mhm.
yet to figure out how they did that. Obviously, there was some computer work there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't find anything that really talked about that actual scene, which you'd think that would be the scene that people would talk about,
Right.
with the
And
special effects. But there's like, I think that might have been one of the ones where it's like, no, it was the video that was like Nakata talked a little bit about it, but it was mostly just trade secret. But yeah, going back to Sadako, I think sort of every other version of Sadako that I've seen looks too deliberate in how she actually looks. Particularly with the hair, it looks too straight. There's sort of there's a slight messiness to Sadako's hair that I really think makes it look like she's more real. And then also the fact that she's missing her nails and that because they're in the well, that is something that other movies, specifically Sadako vs. Kayako, completely misses because of how that film changed what the well is actually. Because the well is not related to Sadako in Sadako vs. Kayako. It's actually related to the Ju-on house.
I'm starting to understand why that film is hated.
Yeah, it's literally in like the backyard of the Ju-on house in that film. it That film sort of is a reboot of both, and it changes a fair few of the rules from Ring. Um,
And see, you can't do that because Ring's rules are perfectly set up.
mhm. The only thing it really does with the rules is it makes it shorter. It makes it 2 days instead of 7 days.
I don't like that. I don't like any of
Yeah, um, I, it kind of works for that film, but
if
could
we
have
ever
could have been more
cover
faithful.
if we ever cover Sadako versus Kayako, it's not
That'll
gonna
be a
be
fun episode.
it's not gonna be good.
That'll be a fun episode. I can't wait for that.
I can wait a
You haven't
long time.
seen. I can't wait to talk about the headbutt kill.
We're gonna move on from that one, whatever that was. Um,
You'll understand in due time.
maybe. But yeah, no, I agree with you on the Sadako thing, and I love that you pointed out the little details about the fingernails
I
because I
think that
feel
is the
like
most unsettling part of the design.
yes, I agree because like when I first watched that, I remember looking down at my fingernails and like clenching up because it was like that is so gross and like unsettling, and I didn't know how to react. It was so off-putting.
And then another thing that I like about about the Japanese version of the character Sadako over Samara is that the only part of the face you see is the eye.
Yes,
I do
yes.
not like that about the American remake. I do not like seeing Samara's face. You know.
I remember because I just recently watched The Ring. I got to see it in theaters, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm planning on picking up the steelbook that was just released because I
Mm-hmm.
mean I need to get it. Um, I I feel like almost everything about Gore Verbinski's is good, but it falls flat on two characters. One being Samara. I hate that name. Sadako is so much cooler. I love Sadako, like that
Yeah, but
name.
in the West, Samara is now the more popular name because
Yeah,
of
we
the
don't like
American film.
we don't like that.
At least the Grudge kept Kayako and Toshio as the names, you know.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
Oh, good. Well,
because
that's
it's set in
because
Japan.
yeah, I was gonna say that's because the Grudge was set in Japan, so
Yeah,
and it was directed by Takashi Shimizu.
true.
Um, but that and who would be Hiroki Sanada's character in
Yeah, I had a feeling
in
that's the one you were going to say.
no, so okay, the book goes into the details a lot more, and I like that the film does not explain why Sanada's character is different, but he has psychic abilities. The film briefly touches on it and kind of moves past it.
Yeah,
Whereas Gore Verbinski's version completely just ignores it. It
I was
never
about to
happened.
say, did they ever even acknowledge that or have him be
No,
a psychic in that film? Because I
no,
have not seen it in like about 3 or 4 years, I think.
no. The way they pitched him, the way they executed him in Gore Verbinski's film, is he was just kind of like this smart, hot-headed, hot guy that is also the ex-husband.
Mhm. With hair that is very of the time.
Yeah, yeah, very of the time, very of the time.
It's like that one kid in Lake Mungo.
Yeah. Um, but I love since I'm kind of talking about characters, I loved how Ring's characters all made sense for the scenes they were in. When Koji Suzuki wrote the characters, he specifically split up his more type 1 personality, which is like your more me type, like intelligence, logic, uh, career led mentality, and then your more art and creative and daring personality type. He split his two personality types up and wrote them as the two characters. And then you get to see them working together because them together is one full person, them separate is not good enough.
Mm.
Um, which is an interesting idea, and I think the film didn't explore that too much because it doesn't explore the characters as well as the novels do, which I think is to be
Hmm.
expected. Um,
Yeah. I mean, 90-minute runtime.
right.
First, how many pages is a novel? Like 300?
I think it's
Yeah.
like just short of 300. I could be wrong
Mm.
though.
Yeah.
Um,
Point remains.
yeah. Uh, I like how they interact and they like their interaction in Nagata's film is something of like it's less direct than Gore Verbinski's.
Mhm.
Gore Verbinski's is very
Yeah. Yeah.
The tension is like Nagata's film was all about tension and suspense and building up this pressure that in a way supposedly goes away the moment that well is opened. The moment the well is opened, you kind of get this sigh of relief because they're there, but time is running out. They have to fix it quickly, or so they think. Whereas in Gore Verbinski's, there's a lot of like ups and downs and like growing and rising and lowering pressure and tension.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
there's
Gore
art.
Verbinski's one has the horse scene as well, too.
Horse scene. Okay, I know there's horses. Like horses are a huge part of it. Oh yes, yeah, I
The
know
one on
what.
the boat. The one on the
Yeah,
boat.
on the boat, which made little sense.
Yeah, that is.
Well,
that is such a. It feels so out of place to me, from what little I recall.
Gore Verbinski's used a different like disease and like different setup for how Sadako does her thing. In the novel, Sadako got raped by a guy who had smallpox. Sadako is a girl who doesn't have male or female parts. She's like
Yeah,
this
she's
in
intersex.
between. Yeah.
Which I think
And
Ring Kanzenban is the
yes.
only adaptation to acknowledge. Or
Ring
is there one
Kanban,
other that
yes.
acknowledges it?
Ring, I think Ring the Final Chapter, I think. I know the TV versions specifically are the only ones to properly adapt Koji Suzuki's description
Yeah.
of the characters. So Sadako is this intersex character who can't bear children, who is a child that is raped by her father, I'm pretty sure, who has smallpox. To cover up what he has done, he throws her down the well where she's trapped, and she manifests a curse. And that curse, you watch the video, and then within 7 days, you die. And when you die, the movie kind of explains it as more of fear, but I'm pretty sure in the novel it's explained that they have a case of smallpox, where smallpox was like found in the dead bodies. Uh, it's her virus, and the only way to save yourself, and this is the most interesting thing, because I question, because I feel like there's some loopholes you could make here, but the only way to prevent from dying is if you share it with somebody else.
Yeah.
So by the end of the film, are we going to talk spoilers?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of already have a little.
Okay, so now a full-blown spoiler warning is in session. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. It's really good.
It's good.
Hiroki Sanada's character, even though I hated the fact he dies.
Yeah.
And it's after they think they have successfully laid Sadako to rest. And the reason for that is the only way is to copy the tape and give it to somebody else and they watch it.
Yeah.
So the only way to prevent yourself from dying is being selfish, which is really interesting because in American film, if this was an American production, they wouldn't have done that. It would have been, you released her spirit, she's laid to rest, everything's fine. But no, this is Japanese film. Even if you do that, you're still screwed. You have to send it to somebody else, and then they have to deal with it. And it's either they can just kill themselves, pretty much, and the virus die, or you share it with somebody else.
I mean, that's probably part of why Ring was so successful and was able to spread through word of mouth, because of that aspect where you may try putting this to rest, but oh no, it's not done with you just because you did that, you know?
Right.
Sadako doesn't care.
Exactly. And it's funny because this is the coolest part. Had your main character, the reporter, had she not
Done
done the
anything.
story, had she not done the story, this wouldn't happen. But because she did the story and it's airing on TV, it's going to spread because people are going to look for it and try to do what they did in the story. And it's the perfect solution for what Sadako wants. And it's like, it's so cool because your main character turns out to be the whole reason we're screwed. And there's nothing she can do about it because she's already screwed up.
Yeah. She's in too deep.
She is. And then
Literally.
she then gets her father to save her child, which
Yeah.
I thought was one of the most messed up. I was like, whoa. Like, ending on that note is really, really creepy. And she's driving off into not a sunset, but a cloudy filled sky.
Yeah. And then you got the question of, will they spread the curse further?
Right.
Will she even tell them about
Mhm.
the curse?
Because now she knows.
Mm.
And spoiler alert, there are sequels.
And she has power over the story.
So she probably didn't. But it's just that whole thing is, it throws you through a loop. It throws you through a spiral. See what I did there? See what I did there? And the reason the novel and the movie are called Ring is because it is this loop. It's this endless loop that you can't get out of. And who's to say that you don't get sent it again?
Yeah.
And then you have to deal with the whole same situation.
I mean, I heard an interpretation. I don't believe the film really implies this. Maybe one of the other films do. I don't know. But I heard an interpretation where it's like, if you have to keep the chain going, because if someone does actually get killed, it goes back, which I don't think works with this film's logic. But because then she would have the curse from Ryuji,
right?
But would be interesting if that's the case. Maybe it's one of the American films. I'm not sure.
I think it's the sequel. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I've only, as I said before, only other Japanese Ring movies I've seen are Zero and Sadako vs. Kayako.
I know what happens in Ring 2, but I'm trying not to say it because I don't want to spoil it, and this is not an episode on Ring 2.
All I know is that even though he's dead, Hiroyuki Sanada is credited in it.
I mean, he just transcends life and death, man.
True.
This was the first film that I recognized him in. I feel bad because we haven't talked about him. He's one of the greatest actors of all time. I love his look in this film, and Ring was the film that kind of made me realize, oh, that's him. I love him in Legend of the Eight Samurai. He was in The Wolverine. He was in Avengers Endgame.
The Last Samurai as well.
The Last Samurai, 47 Ronin, John Wick 4.
Can't wait for him in that. Mortal Kombat, Army of Dead.
Mortal Kombat, Bullet Train. The guy's been everywhere. He's like one of the most well-known Japanese actors of all time. And one of the reasons was Ring kind of put him on a superstardom.
Oh, yeah.
On very rare occasions do you get a Japanese actor brought over to do American films.
And one who's decently recognizable even to, Westerners. Like, the only other ones that I can really think of are Ken Watanabe and Sonny Chiba, really.
Mm-hmm. If we're talking strictly Japanese
in American films.
Right, right. Because if we wanted to go further, we could say Jackie Chan.
Oh yeah, yeah. Obviously, Jackie Chan for
Yeah.
like Asian like movie stars. Jackie Chan, and Bruce Lee, all them.
Right.
Even Donnie Yen to an extent, you know.
But yeah, no, Sonata's like one of the most recognizable, like you said. Like
Hmm.
that's
Particularly in the modern day with
yeah.
Mortal Kombat and Bullet Train, and soon to be John Wick 4.
Hmm.
Cannot wait to see him in that.
And all I can say is, when is he going to be in Godzilla?
Honestly, yes, we need. No, we need. I've been saying this since Prey came out. We need a Predator movie with Hiroyuki Sanada.
That would be cool. That'd be really cool.
Like, that is a match made in heaven. Like,
Didn't
we
we?
can't get Toshiro Mifune because he's dead. So let's get the next best man to fight the Predator.
Didn't you? I feel like we had that conversation once
We
before.
probably have. I'm sure we have, but it's just too good of an idea to not bring up again. I will fight for that movie to be made. I will make it my damn self if I have to.
Course correcting a bit back.
Yeah.
The film also surprisingly has a really tiny cast. Like, there's plenty of people in it, but like,
Yeah. We only really focus on like the
three.
main relationship is with Sonata and his wife, and then there's also, of course, his son.
Mm-hmm. Which the son is also weird too. They don't dive too much into it in the film, but you can tell something's weird about the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Gore Verbinski's film dove a lot deeper into it.
How did that one dive into it? I don't remember much from the kid.
The way I understood it, they kind of made it so Sonata's psyche was actually the kid's in Gore Verbinski's film, because the kid knows about all the different stuff and is like, Samara feels this, Samara says that. And it's like, really? What's going on here? And it's because he, I guess, is the one able to communicate with her.
So they essentially gave him the psychic powers instead of Sonata.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
I do not recall that at all. I remember that Ryuji didn't have, or whatever his name was in that film, didn't have the psychic powers, because I was actually surprised when I realized he did have psychic powers in this film when I first watched it.
Mm-hmm.
But I genuinely don't remember the kid having psychic powers.
Right. That being said, I just wanted to dive into a little bit of history. I feel like we've dove into a lot of its history, but I also wanted to bring up that one of the reasons I feel like this film did so well with how it was made is Nagata had already made this film once before, with his low-budget film Don't Look Up, which follows a film crew filming in a haunted house that they find this long black-haired girl in white in the footage they filmed. And the rest of the story is them trying to figure out, where is this person at and who is it? And so that's kind of like the blueprint for what Ring would be. And you could go as far as saying that Nagata was inspired by Ring when making Don't Look Up. And that's how he got going.
When was Don't Look Up released?
1997? 1996?
Okay. Because I know he did see... I don't know when he saw it, but I know he did see the 1995 adaptation of Ring as well.
It might have been whenever it was released to Ring Kazaban, correct? The TV movie. That was released to theaters that was before Ring came out. That was to piggyback off that, I'm pretty sure. But Don't Look Up was only a 6-week limited release. It kind of bombed,
Mm-hmm.
but when Ring came out and they reissued Don't Look Up, it was a huge success.
I mean, I heard a similar thing with one of his other films called Ghost Assassin, I think
I've heard
was
of
its
that one
name.
before.
Yeah, where that sort of had a similar sort of resurgence or a similar boost in popularity after Ring came out, and I think that was the one that actually put him on the map to get noticed by the producers of Ring as well.
Gotcha. Also, I believe it was 1997. Don't Look Up was released because he got nommed for an award
I see.
in
I think
1997.
Ghost Assassin was like around the same time, 96, 97 ish.
Probably he was working on an independent documentary at the time, so he was
Mm.
just trying to get work so he could make money, and so he would just do whatever worked. And he ended up landing those jobs, and that landed him Ring, and then he became one of the first Japanese directors to be asked to direct an American Hollywood film.
Mm.
The first being Takashi Shimizu, um,
Yeah.
but he's right there. Like a few years later,
What
um,
was his first? What was his American film?
Takashi Shimizu's
No. Nakata's.
Nagata. He was asked to do The Ring 2 for DreamWorks.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I need to watch that one to see how well it. Because it's funny, Nagata directed 2 Ring 2s.
Hmm. I've heard mixed things about mixed to negative things about the Ring to American. So
I mean, there is a lot to be said that J horror is more of a producer's game than a director's game. Um,
yeah, but I don't know. I feel like at least I, I don't know. I don't know enough to say for sure, but I don't think you can just like blatantly just be like, yeah, 100% producers game. You know,
sure. Part of that also just was simply
particularly when there's two different cuts of what you call it, Sweet Home. You know.
right. Um, to be honest, Ring was just like lightning in a bottle. You had all the right screenwriters, you
Mhm.
had the right director, the right producers.
I mean, lightning struck twice with Darkwater,
True, Dark Water, I think, is
which is also based on a Koji Suzuki story.
correct. Though that one was a short story. Experiment.
Nonetheless, point
Yeah,
remains.
yeah. But that's another. That's a whole topic for another one. That one
Oh, definitely.
I want to cover Dark Water
I'm
too.
sure we'll cover that someday soon.
We will. Um, but no, Ring is a. When I watched it, I left it, and I wasn't scared because
Hmm.
the film isn't supposed to be scary
Hmm.
per
I mean, I
se.
think the scares in and of themselves don't. I don't think they work as well in a modern context, bar the Ryuji scene, of
Yes,
course.
yes.
I
Um,
don't think the photographs are scary at all in a modern context. Like
no,
I can understand that working back in '98, like before Photoshop and image editing was really all that well known, you know, where
yeah,
everyone was like, yeah, you can just do this on your phone. We have filters and things like that. Um, so in that regard, I don't think those scares hold up.
I agree. I agree. Um, but overall, I think Ring in its uh time, like when it came out, when you take into that perspective and try to conceptualize that idea, and when you also think about the copy of the copy of the copy, so a very worn out print,
Hmm.
it makes sense why this would be horrifying.
Yeah.
Um, Similar to how like Blair Witch Project, when it came out, was very popular
Hmm.
for its new attempt. Ring did the
I
same
mean,
thing.
another thing with that is it's hard to look at horror movies in the like. from a modern perspective, it is hard to look at something that was scary then as
Right.
scary now. I think that's something that's sort of you can just see that across horror of every era because of how the genre just changes every few years.
Right. And Ring came at the perfect time where horror in Japan was dead or dying. I mean, it was on its way out. Um, but with Ring and Tomy, I think it is, and then Ju-on,
Mm-hmm.
you had this huge wave of technology-based horror, of curse and grudges,
Yeah.
and essentially a genre of dead wet girls. Like, the reason why Khaled suggested that is because with that, you've got uh, Kayako, you've got the I don't know her name from Darkwater, Tomio,
The
uh,
one from One Miss Call as well.
what it is called. They're all dead. They're most of them are wet, and they're all female. Um,
You know the one from Dark Water as a child, right?
shut up! Shut up! Stop! Stop! I tried to say that with the straightest face possible. And I'm pretty sure I questioned whether or not I should say wet.
These things
Yeah,
happen.
if there was an instant replay, I think there's a moment in there where like I look and I'm like, should I say this? And then I just go
Yeah.
with it.
Uh,
Um.
um, but
Anyway,
continue.
back to my point. It just birthed a new genre, and unfortunately, the genre died almost instantly because everybody was doing the same thing.
Yeah. And so this things have sort of just become stale pop culturally, and like none of the none of these sort of modern Ring movies have had particularly major impacts in the West.
I
Same with the
mean,
Japanese Grudge series.
the most recent Sadako DX, right?
That
DX
just came out like 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought it had been out for a while because,
it,
like,
it premiered a while ago, but
oh,
its full release was two days ago. Yeah, same day as Black Sun.
but nothing has like nobody's talking about it.
Mhm.
Like nothing.
I mean,
It's.
I've heard mostly positive from what little reviews I've seen. I've heard mostly positive things.
I mean, that's good, but I will say this: I think the issue is J horror has fallen into what Ring was warning about, that cycle.
Mm.
It's the same stuff over
Yeah,
and over and over again, and until they can break that, until somebody just
until
re-
something new happens.
right, it's going to continue to stay dead, and
Yeah,
and until I think we can understand what, because we've tried to modernize the fear of technology with films like Unfriended and Rings, the 2017 American film. It just doesn't work.
hmm I
It
mean, I think the thing is too is it's just J horror. Like compared to American horror, like when you think American horror, you may think of slashers, like, but even if you're only thinking of slashers, you'll think of Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers. You think of how different they are from each other. But
Mhm.
when the average person thinks Japanese horror, you either think of Sadako or Kayako, who are they are. If you actually have seen the films, you'd know they're different. But from a more broad, general perspective, they may as well be the same thing. They're
Right,
interchangeable to the average person.
right.
And
It's
I
just
think
one.
the big issue is that's what J horror is exclusively known primarily for them.
Yep. and until we can see something new, it'll continue to be that.
Mhm. J horror will simply be exclusive to the late 90s and 2000s.
Which sucks because
Mhm.
as I mentioned at the beginning, there has been J horror for decades.
Yeah, and there's some absolutely brilliant stuff from the genre. You know, we've got like the films we've talked about: Matango, Snake Girl and the Silverhead Witch, House, Sweet Home. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and even from the modern stuff, you got Noroi. I've heard is quite good.
Noroi, Pulse, even though I'm not a fan of that one, people love that one. Um, you've got uh, Shock Labyrinth, which that was a Takashi Shimizu film. But J horror, it there's other things beyond,
There is variety in J horror, but none of it's just ever stuck like Ring and The Grudge did.
and part of the reason for Ring probably was how it got distributed. That the bootlegging way was how the film
Hmm.
might have meant to have been. And Ju-on just was, it came out in the perfect time for that like wave of desire. Not the grudge, not the curse or the curse 2, but the grudge. Because Ju-on the curse came out and nobody really knows that's the first Ju-on film. Everybody knows the
Yeah,
grudge and the grudge 2.
yeah.
So even then you could argue that it's just the timing of Ju-on 2 4 or Ju-on 3 just was at the right time. And that's why it got wide appeal, and beyond that point you never really saw anything else.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, I could continue to gush over this film. um I don't want to go too deep into Nagata, and I don't want to go too deep into Suzuki because there's still plenty of other things we can cover and talk about. Maybe even do a
Yeah.
book review on the original Ring
Mm.
book. Um,
We should do that sometime. I
I
think there
feel like
is. I'm pretty sure there's an official English
there is.
translation.
There's an
Isn't
English
there
translation of
translations
all
of
of his
multiple of them?
books. All of his
Yeah.
books. Yep. Um, But one thing I did want to end off on, that I have, if you want to talk more, you absolutely can, Rex. I would love to talk more about it. Is Koji Suzuki specifically said about the book, but I think you could also argue this about other things. And David Callett has echoed this opinion before, specifically about like Godzilla movies. Uh, American audiences wouldn't understand Ring. They wouldn't understand the story of Ring.
Mhm.
That's something more for a Japanese audience, and international audiences just don't get it. And we brought up earlier how the ending felt Japanese. And I wanted to bring this up then, but I feel like it's a good thing to at least bring it up now. That is a prime example of that. Uh, Khaled said about the Godzilla films, Japanese audiences are conditioned to conditioned to fantasy above realism, whereas Western audiences are conditioned to expect realism, and anything short of that is not good enough. Um, which has been my biggest argument for why I have yet to see a proper American adaptation of any Japanese live action film. Um, all 4 Godzilla movies, uh, The Ring. Whenever I watch The Grudge and The Ring 2 and The Grudge 2 and The Grudge 3 and Pulse
Mhm.
2 and Pulse 3 and The Grudge and Rings, I'm sure I'll say the same thing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't translate. And I think part of that is just from the cultures. Uh, if it isn't obvious by now, out of the from the 4 films, well, Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch I'll exclude, but 3 of the 4 films we've discussed, the ending does not end with a happy ending.
Yeah.
The people that should survive the horror movie don't survive the horror movie. It throws you through a loop. It throws you through that moment of like shock. I didn't want Hiroki Sanada's character to die. The fact the film ends on him dying was like, I was shocked because I was so upset that they did that to my favorite character. In Ju-on, nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. Everybody dies. Nobody survives. In
That damned
Matango,
house.
yeah, in Matango, your character that's been fighting to not eat the mushrooms ate the mushrooms. It just, you're screwed if you're in a Japanese horror movie. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most interesting things because at the end of Little Shop of Horrors, the movie, they reshot the entire ending because in the original ending, Seymour and Audrey both died to Audrey too. But in the test audiences, people hated that, so they scrapped it and reshot it where both of them survive. Because they wanted...
The miniatures in that scene look so good
They
too,
do.
though.
They spent weeks working on that final sequence, and they had 2 weeks to do the new one, if I remember correctly. But
Hate test audiences.
that's a prime example. The test audiences did not like the fact that your main characters died.
Mm-hmm.
And so they fixed it so it was typical and your main character survived. That is not how J-horror works. In J-horror, you don't know what's going to happen. And that is the magic of Japanese horror compared to Western horror in most regards.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting how it's a bit more unpredictable in Japanese horror whether the characters are actually going to live through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still think it's more likely that they will, but, you know.
Right. But, like, specifically in the wave that followed after Ring, a lot of that
definitely.
Everybody's screwed.
Yeah, definitely. Even, like, one with Skull, too, you know. Darkwater as well. The main character sacrifices herself.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna bring something up about the whole fantasy element. I'm just trying to recall what I was actually gonna say. Yeah, I find it interesting just seeing that clash in like Godzilla and Ring, where American films, you know, there's this idea that everything has to be explained, everything has to make sense, particularly in a more modern context now that we've got like the wannabe cinema sins type characters who are like, this has to make sense. If you don't explain this one specific detail, then that's a major plot hole, and the film is absolutely ruined for it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which I hate that mentality, but anyways.
Right. I mean...
Whereas...
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I insist.
I already forgot.
Fuck you, bruh. Where in Ringu, the film just introduces something like, Ryuji's a psychic. All right, let's go for it. You know, how does the ring tape come? Let's go for it. You know. I mean, I don't think they really explain like the psychic element or even the origin. Do they explain the origin of tape in the American version?
I don't. I think they say she created it.
Because I remember them going a bit more into Sadako's backstory a little bit in like the American film, like during like the second act of that, where there's like flashbacks to her in like a mental hospital or something.
Right. Yeah, no, they have footage of like uh her being in the mental hospital and how she's like, I want to hurt people.
Yeah, whereas like in Ring, there's only really one scene dedicated to that, where like where her mother um, is doing the performance in front of the journalists, and then one of them dies and Sadako comes out.
Right. And even then you don't see Sadako.
Yeah,
One of the things I think was a lot scarier about Sadako versus Samara was Samara you see and she just looks mean. Sadako, you don't know what she looks like.
yeah,
You don't know what she looks like.
and that's why I don't like seeing Samara's face, like in
Mhm.
that scene where she attacks not Hiroyuki Sanada, you know.
He shall forever now be known as not Hiroyuki Sanada.
I'm sure he's probably like a somewhat famous actor, but like I A, don't care. B, he's not Hiroyuki Sanada, you know.
This is true. That being said, real quick, I just wanted to say we've been trashing on the uh, American film for most of this uh, recording, but I do want to say I thought The Ring was a decent adaptation.
I like The Ring. I like both films. Like
Ring
not
is
quite equally. I
Mhm.
like them both in different ways. I think the Ring is something I can more easily pop in. Sort of like it's less. I remember it being less slow burnish. So if I'm in more excited, energetic mood, then I'd probably put in The Ring. But you know, I think both are pretty, pretty damn good movies. You know.
Yeah, I agree. I think The Ring suffers from your typical early 2000s Hollywood
Yeah,
aesthetics.
yeah. I'm not a fan of the overly blue color grading as
Blue,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Like, I think it
Um,
works for the film, but I think it's still a bit overboard.
I agree, and I think the story lacks in mystery throughout most of the film. Uh,
Yeah,
Now, eventually, we will. I would love for us to cover The Ring, so we
we
can
need
like,
to get into covering American adaptations eventually, even of like 54 and Race
yeah,
Again and all them.
yeah,
That'll
because
be interesting.
we haven't done any of the American stuff. We've only done the
Yeah, we've
Japanese
intentionally left them out.
because we it's worth going in on a separate episode talking about them because the Ring
They
is
are
not
separate beasts.
yeah, and the Ring is not Ring.
Oh,
There's
definitely.
a huge difference um of both films. Both
Hmm.
are good. I think Ring is phenomenal. I think The Ring is good. I love Gore Verbinski as a director. His Pirates of the Caribbean films are some of Hollywood's greatest blockbusters.
And I've never seen one full.
I love 3. I think 3 is amazing. 1 specifically does not feel like a blockbuster, but it was.
Hmm.
The CGI in those is great. Um I think Gore Verbinski is a great director, and you can see the fact that he is not your typical B-rate director because if you watch the following Pirates of the Caribbean films, they just don't work.
Honestly, horror directors going into action is just one of the best combos you can get. Like James Wan going from like Saw, Insidious, Conjuring to Aquaman.
Aquaman,
That bro, that is amazing. And I
uh,
love how his Aquaman like action style transfers into his horror film Malignant.
yeah. James Gunn did Slither, and now he's doing
Hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hmm. Even the director of Shazam, like he came from like Annabelle Creation and Lights Out, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah, he was a horror director before
Wow.
making Shazam.
Wow.
And Shazam has those horror sequences that are
That is
actually really
true.
well done,
That is true. And then you've got
particularly
like
for a PG-13 family film, essentially.
right. And then your obvious one, Michael Dougherty and Adam Wingard, but
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
but
you know,
do we have to bring those up?
I
I
mean,
mean,
to be
Doherty's
fair,
okay. I don't mind Doherty, but
he
Wingard,
just
Wingard,
Wingard can
Wingard's Wingard.
he can go. Why did we have to bring him back? Why? 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 Dude, get Gore Verbinski to
Money,
do a Godzilla film.
bro,
That'd be interesting. I'd be curious. Let's see it.
bro.
Let's see what happens.
Can we just get any like other horror director? Can we get James Wan to do Godzilla? His company is called Atomic Monster.
This is true. And isn't Atomic Monster working on a movie?
I think they're working on a monster movie, like a giant
It's
monster
a TV
film.
show, or is it a TV show?
I don't remember. I think they're working on like one like giant monster project. But like in the like
Oh, it's the
10-ish
Kaiju
years,
score. Isn't the Kaiju score?
it might be. I don't remember.
I think it is the Kaiju score with
I
Sony.
don't remember.
I could be wrong.
I don't know. I'm not funny. Oh, apparently they're working on King Kong. Oh, they might be working on the
that's
Disney
right.
TV
It's
series.
the Disney TV series. That's what they're working on. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I mean,
They're
did
working
have
on the
a
Train
giant
to
monster.
Busan remake. Ew.
There's another good example of a bad adaptation,
A
probably.
soon to be very bad adaptation.
But anyway, Ring.
We went off topic again.
We went way off topic, but I think what both Rex and I are getting at here is foreign adaptations, especially for films like Ring, are really hard to do because Ring was lightning in a bottle. And
Yeah.
it's not every day that a film comes out and births a whole genre. I mean, look at Marvel. Blade came out, that didn't birth a new genre. X-Men came out, that didn't we didn't get a huge. It was something that took over 2 decades, and all it really was just Marvel producing after film after film after film, with DC trying to catch up but always stumbling.
Yeah.
Ring created something unheard of, which was this huge boom of horror all of a sudden. And it all got recognition.
And foreign horror too, you know? It's even rarer because it was popular even like outside of the US. You had, I mean, you got places like Hong Kong and Taiwan where it's going to be pretty popular, where it was even beating out like The Matrix, you know?
And Korea, South Korea, which
had their own adaptation.
And which makes sense because there was bans on Japanese content, but it's the fact that Ring did so well that they wanted to do that. Korea wasn't really pro-Japanese. They still aren't really all pro-Japanese, but the fact that even South Korea was like, this is good, remake it, says something.
Yeah, and it even became popular in like UK television networks where it was like one of the most popular Japanese films on there until like I think it was a Doraemon film that overtook it on like UK TVs or something.
Interesting.
Something like that. That's what I read.
Ring is something truly special. It truly is.
Very influential, you know.
And last week, I asked you to rate all the films, and so let's put Ring in the ranking that we gave, if you can remember yours.
Okay, so my ranking was from
It was Matango, Snake Girl,
least best to best was Juon, Snake Girl, and then Matango.
Mm-hmm.
Where would I put Ring? That is interesting. Hmm. I would probably. A part of me wants to put it. I want to put it either. I'm gonna say for now between Juon and Snake Girl, but I do think there's room to grow. I see the shock on your face. This is really funny.
Wow. I'm gonna need a drink after that.
Look, man, I enjoyed Snake Girl a surprising amount. I genuinely didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Look, man, Snake Girl was very good.
Okay. So you're wrong. Am
I though?
Yes. So I would put Ring. My list was Juon, Matango, Snake Girl. I would put Ring above all of them. Ring, Juon, Matango, Snake Girl. Ring is not the scariest. The scariest goes to Juon. F Kayako and that sound.
Mm-hmm.
No. Oh, I just got chills from thinking about that. And you just saw that.
I have a friend. She made while we were talking, she made like this croaking sound at like one point in our conversation, and I'm just thinking like, I'm gonna need you to send me a voice recording of that so that I can send it to one of my friends.
Nope. Nope.
I'm gonna need it.
Nope. Oh, I can't. I just can't.
You know what I'm doing next time I meet up with her.
It's not the scariest. That's Juon. But I love Nagata's directing. I love the camera shots. I love the occasional extreme angle, the camera, the crane shots, just kind of the subtle motion throughout it. I
think it's the most well-made film of
I agree.
the four. I'll agree with you there that I think it's the most well-made. Like Snake Girl and the Silverhaired Witch is one I feel was probably the most B-rate in feel and look, you know. But for me, in pure like entertainment value, it's like I don't think Ring works as well on maybe it'll grow on me more, but it doesn't work as well for me like on rewatch. It's not something I can just pop in and be like, yeah, I want to watch Ring all of a sudden, you know.
Interesting. See, I put in the David Callett commentary over it all the time.
You see, I don't have that commentary. I watched it on Tubi.
Ouch.
I'm sorry, I don't have the Blu-ray yet. I will get it.
You need to get the box set.
I'll get the trilogy box set. That's what I want to get. Or quadrilogy, really.
Yeah. If you've listened through all of this and you haven't seen the movie, well, you
go watch it.
You spoiled it, but go buy the Arrow Video Blu-ray box set, the Ring collection, the Ringu collection.
Honestly, just buy all the Arrow Video sets because, like, minus Matango, all of these either have or are getting, in Juon's case, an Arrow release. So, you know,
yeah, pick it up. It's got a 4K remaster of Ring. A great commentary by David Callett, who did one for Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Gamera versus Guiron, and a UK commentary for Mothra, H-Man, and I think Battle in Outer Space. He did one too.
Mhm.
I know he.
And then on top of that, you get a bunch of bonus features and free sequels of mixed reception.
Mhm. But definitely check it out. I love Ring. I think Ring is something that I will
It's a
hold.
brilliantly made film.
Mhm.
Like in spite of my opinion, I can't deny the actual talent in the filmmaking
Mhm.
from Nakata.
And one thing I didn't bring up is the sets. I love the sets. It feels very realistic. It's very detailed.
The whole movie has a very realistic and even like intimate feeling with characters. Actually, that's something I wanted to bring up too. Where like, from what little I do remember, I feel the American film was like very overt with like establishing its character relationships between like not Sonata, um, his wife or ex-wife,
They
even
just
like
say it.
the implied or not even only that, not only that, like the body language as well, the expressions of the actors is more in your face about what the film is trying to convey.
Mhm.
And with like the student as well,
Mhm.
where in this film it's a lot more subtle. Like if you're paying attention and you're paying attention to the dialogue and how the actors are playing off each other, you'll pick up on all these emotions. I think a brilliant scene is when they're on the island and they're staying in the room together right before or right after being shown like the photo. What was it? The photo of Sadako? No,
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 it
it
was
was
the
a photo
family.
of
It was.
Shizuko. It was Shizuko, I believe.
Are you thinking of when it was all three of them?
It might have
The
been.
father, the
It
mother,
was
and
whatever the house where the mirror was. The building where the
right.
mirror appeared. Like I think that scene is absolutely brilliant in how it's shot and how it's acted, especially.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that, from what I recall of the American film, it's too overt for me.
Yeah, yeah, and I always felt like The Ring tried to do a lot of establishing shots, a lot of wide angles, whereas
Mhm.
Ring tries to keep it more of that medium to close.
Yeah, yeah. When you say that, I think of like some of the establishing shots of like the tree, backlit
Yeah,
by the moon.
yeah.
That's what instantly comes to mind, which is a striking visual, mind you. To be fair,
It's just different. Two
it's
different
going for a
directors.
different.
Two
It's
different.
going for a different feeling.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Um, absolutely. I like The Ring. I think it's great. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I I think I'm about to make a statement that might be very interesting to say. So let me just
Ooh.
make sure I definitely agree with this opinion. Okay,
You
so
have me intrigued.
since you've been on the podcast, so episode 21, Curse of the
Yeah.
Demon. Since then, I would probably go as far to say I think Ring is my favorite film we've discussed.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Its
Wow.
its its competitors are the Super Inframan, which is good. Um,
Based movie.
it's a fun watch. Um, Gojira or Godzilla 54,
Mm-hmm.
King Kong 33, King Kong
Yeah.
versus Godzilla, Godzilla versus Kong, The Last
Yeah, Brings
Dinosaur.
beating that easily.
Yeah. Godzilla 2014, Howl from Beyond the Fog, A Day of the Kaiju, Godzilla Raids Again, Son of Kong, Clash of the Titans, I wasn't counting, but I would say I like Ring more than Clash of the Titans.
Mhm.
Cloverfield, Ju-On the Grudge, The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch, and Matango. I think it's my favorite film that we've talked about.
Honestly, fair enough.
Yeah, I know back when I posted on January 15th my top 5 tokusatsu movies I saw in 2021, which I saw almost 100. Um,
God damn.
not The Ring, or not Ring, but Ring 2 made it to the top 5. And
Really?
I always go back and forth on Ring or Ring 2. Um, Ring was right up there with those other.
So what you're saying is Ring 2 is actually good.
I like Ring 2. Apparently, a lot of people don't. But we'll talk about that one when we talk about Ring 2.
Interesting.
That's all I've got, Rex. Unless you've got something else.
I mean, I think I more or less brought up all my other points.
Okay. So this is the last episode of the spooky season. This episode is going live, hopefully, if we can get it edited in time, Halloween. So
Yeah.
last day, if anybody's actually listening on Halloween to us talk about Ring for what will essentially be almost 2 hours,
Oh, Jesus.
please message us. I want to know if somebody is spending their Halloween listening to us talk about Ring. But it's been fun. We've done a full month where we did an episode every week. Maybe we can do
Minus a
more
little
like,
hiccup with this week or this
yeah,
episode.
but I mean, it was. I think
These
it's
things
a good
happen.
idea. Yeah. I'd like to see if we could do this again. Another like themed month. That's not
Mhm.
just October.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do.
I mean, I think we should. Honestly, I think that soon enough we probably could go to 2 weeks, like one episode 2 weeks, like we used to.
Yeah. Now that my car situation's figured out, your schedule's a little more figured out.
Manageable.
Yeah,
It's
manageable.
more manageable.
And we kind of know what we're doing. Kinda.
To an extent, you know.
To be fair, we're still not like it's 5 o'clock in the morning.
You've got room to grow.
I've sat here the entire night and talked about Ring. I get off work at midnight. I get off at work at midnight.
They happen, you know.
And I drove here and I got here at like 1. So it's been pretty much my whole night. I could have slept and woken
You're
up.
welcome.
But that's the joys of having a co-host in Australia. I'll just say this on air now. Normally, this is something I would just tell Rex, but the Godzilla against Mechagodzilla screening is happening this month or this week. Fathom Events is putting on for Godzilla Day. I'm having my best friend come with me, and I think I'm going to do a bonus episode recording where he's going to, I don't know how long it'll be. Knowing him, it'll be like 20 minutes because he's not going to say much. But I want to maybe talk to him about that. So you guys might have a little bonus episode going over Godzilla against Mechagodzilla through his opinion. I'm not going to give anything. I might just say it was cool to see it in the big screen and see this and this. But that's going to be about it.
And then we got our November dedicated episode too.
We do. We might try to slip in a second episode. We'll see.
I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't either. I don't know what we'll cover, but
we'll see. I know I haven't had any time to watch any Toku besides what we've been doing, so I'd also like to try and fit in some more just Toku. So
I mean, we can discuss that a bit more later.
Yes, we can. So with that being said, I think now is a perfect time to go ahead and wrap things up here.
Alrighty.
Before we go, we got to do our plugs. So, Rex, tell them where we can find you at.
Well, as you know, my name is Rex Xeno. You can find me on YouTube, Rex space Xeno, XENO for clarification, because people seem to spell that wrong when I tell them. On Twitter, I am at Rex underscore Xenomorph, Instagram, Rex underscore Xeno, and if you want to read a bit of my writing, check out the Tokusatsu Network.
Definitely check those out. I'm Elijah. You can find me on Twitter at ET13 Productions, on YouTube at ET13 Productions, on Instagram at ET13 Productions. If you want to try and find my personal stuff, you can. I've got a Twitter, I've got an Instagram, I've got a Facebook. Go for it if you want to find it. Recently, I was on an episode of Chill with Kaiju Kim, as I mentioned. If you want to, go to Kaiju Kim's YouTube channel, check that out. There I talk about the podcast, my short films, excuse me, just kind of what I do. Besides that, you can check out my writing with Kaiju Ramen Media. I've written for them for every single issue they've put out. They are up to issue 5 being published. Issue 6 is in the works. And I actually wrote an article that briefly mentions Ring and the Ring. So you might want to look into that. It's a pretty cool article, if I do say so myself. I'm also working on a handful of other articles all at the same time too. I've got 3 of them done. I'm working on 3 others as well. So I'm a busy bee with my writing, and all of this you can look forward to in upcoming issues of Kaiju Ramen Magazine. I also write for the website kaijuramenmedia.com, so check those out definitely. With that being said, I think it's time to do the Kaiju Conversation plugs. As always, don't forget to rate our show on iTunes. That boosts our ratings and helps us get recommended to more people just like you. Speaking of being recommended to more people just like you, let me quickly check to see if we have any new reviews. Recently, we were review bombed, so we are sitting at a solid 3 stars. So it doesn't look like we've had any new reviews. But if you guys could, that would be great. Please give us a 5-star rating. We would appreciate that very much because we do try with all of these. We try. If you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, I don't, you can leave us a review on Spotify. Spotify now does that, and that's another great way to help us boost our spirits and help us get out there to more people. Or you can tweet us and follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. If you don't have Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram or like us on Facebook and leave us a review that way. Or if you're like me before podcasting, lucky you, and you don't have any social media, you can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, you know the drill. And like I said, if you leave us a review, we'll read it out on air so everyone can hear it. Just please, 5 stars, please. We also have a Teespring store. It's just our logo. If you want to go around sporting the logo I designed, I'd appreciate it. Go for it. I need to get one myself. I don't know how to do that without... There's like a sample I can get, I think. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Or if you want to go another route, you can always join our Discord server where we are on. I'm not on it as much as I used to because of work, but it's got a bunch of great people there that talk about kaiju, tokusatsu, and everything in between. Right now in our General 1 chat, it looks like the last conversation was about we had a new person join. Welcome. And we asked them what their favorite tokusatsu movie, TV show or movie was, and they said Shin Godzilla, and we had a little Shin Godzilla Shin Ultraman discussion. So lots of stuff going on there. And if you want to hear the bloopers to this episode and other episodes, along with bonus stuff, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload. I'm just now starting to get caught up on episodes, so all of our episodes will be backed up there too as well.
Finally.
I know, finally. It took me a long time to do it, but finally it's
Indeed it did. But, these things happen eventually.
Every Sunday until I get caught up, you'll get a new episode.
How lucky.
So thank you guys so much for listening to us talk about Ring for 2 hours, especially if it was on Halloween. If it was on Halloween, please let us know.
I should end the night by watching Ring.
Yes, watch Ring. And if you can, watch all the movies we talked about.
Do a full movie Halloween night marathon of Ring, Ju-on the Grudge, Matanga, and Snake Girl and the Silverhead Witch.
There you go. Go for it. Do it. Have fun. Enjoy quality cinema. We reviewed all good movies.
For once.
For once. I can't promise it again. Can't promise it again. So yeah, and I think we are good. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this year's spooky season. I'm happy we finally were able to get out a full month worth of these. I've tried to do that ever since the podcast started. So dreams have been made. And we're done. We're done. So thank you guys so much for listening.
Whoa, time to celebrate.
Right? And please, everybody, remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.